The Thanksgiving story you know is a sanitized myth. The real history is a chaotic mess of citywide riots, flaming poultry projectiles, and presidential decisions that defy logic. This isn't a holiday built on harmony, it was forged in absurdity. We've found 32 pieces of evidence to prove it. Let's expose the truth. 1. Picture the perfect Thanksgiving. A warm house, a golden brown turkey, and the gentle murmur of family conversation. Now, throw that image in the garbage, because in 19th century New York City, Thanksgiving was an excuse for absolute mayhem. Young working-class men would put on grotesque masks and hideous costumes for something called a fantastical parade. Their parade route, straight into the homes of the wealthy, where they'd bang on drums, blow horns, and generally cause a scene until they were paid off with money, food, and booze. This wasn't holiday cheer. It was organized extortion with a festive theme, a bizarre mashup of Halloween and the Purge. So next time someone asks you to pass the gravy, just be thankful they aren't demanding your wallet too. 2. While most of America was enjoying a day off, President James K. Polk was busy being the 19th century equivalent of the manager who drops a quick question in your Slack on a national holiday. In his 1845 Thanksgiving diary entry, he didn't mention gratitude or family. Instead, he groused about the entire holiday being a colossal waste of time, complaining that government offices were closed and business was suspended. He portrayed himself as the only person in the country actually working, a lone hero in a nation of layabouts. He saw a day of thanks as a productivity bottleneck. In essence, he was the founding father of holiday workaholics, the original Thanksgiving Grinch who thought the nation should be filing paperwork instead of pies. 3. Go ahead, try to hum Jingle Bells, and think of anything besides Santa Claus, reindeer, and a mountain of presents. It's impossible. Yet, this undisputed soundtrack to Christmas was never meant for that holiday at all. It was written in 1857 by James Lord Pierpont under the title One Horse Open Sleigh for a very specific gig, a Thanksgiving Sunday school concert. There's no mention of Saint Nick, no elves, no magical workshops, just a fun secular tune about the thrill of winter sleigh racing. How this Thanksgiving banger performed a hostile takeover of Christmas is one of history's greatest rebrands. It was the ultimate case of holiday identity theft, and frankly, we're all accomplices. 4. There's a persistent legend that turkeys possess a special brand of stupidity so pure, they'll gaze up at a rainstorm, mouths agape, until they literally drown. It's the go-to example of their supposed brainlessness, an animal seemingly defeated by basic precipitation. As satisfyingly dumb as this sounds, science, the ultimate buzzkill, says it's a myth. The behavior is actually caused by a rare genetic glitch called tetanic torticolor spasms, which triggers an involuntary upward craning of the neck. It's not a lack of brain cells, it's a bizarre neurological hiccup. But let's be real, the truth is far less funny. The myth has forever branded the turkey as the village idiot of the bird world, regardless of the medical facts. 5. For most of us, Thanksgiving dinner is an endurance test. For a select few, it's a high-stakes athletic event. Welcome to the world of competitive turkey eating, where gastronomic gladiators gather to achieve the impossible. Forget the NFL. These are elite athletes of ingestion. The objective is brutally simple. Consume as much roasted turkey as physically possible in a 10-minute window. The reigning champion, the legendary Joey Chestnut, managed to inhale a staggering 9.35 pounds of turkey meat. To put that in perspective, that's like eating an entire small cat's weight in poultry in the time it takes your family to decide who carves the bird. It's a spectacle of sheer human will that's as disgusting as it is awe-inspiring. 6. The bald eagle is the majestic symbol of American freedom and power. But if Benjamin Franklin had gotten his way, the nation's Great Seal would have featured a gobbler. Franklin absolutely despised the bald eagle, launching into a legendary rant where he called it a bird of bad moral character, a lazy coward, and a thief who steals fish from other, more industrious birds. His preferred candidate? The turkey. He praised it as a much more respectable bird and a true original native of America, commending its courage and willingness to defend its territory. Just imagine an alternate universe where every dollar bill, passport, and government building was adorned with a bird we now primarily associate with stuffing and cranberry sauce. 7. Every so often, a food is invented that forces us to ask not if we could, but if we should. The turducken is one of those foods. For the uninitiated, this is an avian abomination of epic proportions. A deboned chicken shoved inside a deboned duck, which is then surgically implanted into a deboned turkey. It is a poultry matryoshka doll, a monument to excess built by someone who decided one bird for dinner was a sign of weakness. This trifecta of fowl has become so infamous for its sheer audacity that the word turducken is now officially in the dictionary. It's not just a meal, it's a culinary conquest, a statement that you looked at nature and decided you could do it better, and with more layers. 8. For 60 baffling years, the town of Yellville, Arkansas, celebrated Thanksgiving with a tradition so breathtakingly dumb, it's hard to believe it was real. The turkey drop. The concept was simple and horrifying. They would load live turkeys onto a low-flying plane and unceremoniously yeet them out the door from 500 feet in the air. The official logic was that domestic turkeys could use their wings to glide to safety. This was a lie of spectacular proportions. These birds, bred for mass, not aerodynamics, plummeted like feathery anvils. It was a grotesque festival of animal cruelty disguised as quirky hometown charm that took decades of national outrage to finally shut down. 9. Every family has its quirks, but one family's solution to a classic Thanksgiving dilemma ventured into the territory of culinary horror. The problem was simple: a large family and only 2 turkey drumsticks. The father's solution was anything but. Instead of compromising, he performed amateur surgery, using a needle and thread to sew a dozen extra turkey legs onto the bird before roasting. What emerged from the oven wasn't a turkey. It was a porcubird, a multi-limbed creature straight from a science fiction nightmare. Imagine the looks on the children's faces as this poultry centipede was placed on the table. It was a brilliant, if terrifying, feat of bioengineering that solved a dinner dispute and undoubtedly created a few lifelong phobias. 10. The modern Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is a wholesome spectacle of beloved characters, but the very first giant balloon to grace the parade in 1928 was pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel. It wasn't a friendly cartoon animal. It was a grotesque, unnamed humanoid with a lumpy, malformed head, a fixed, terrifying grin, and dead, vacant eyes that stared into your soul. Its proportions were horribly wrong, creating an unsettling vibe that was less happy holidays and more, I'm here to harvest your children's dreams. Forget Snoopy. This was a floating Cthulhu toddler drifting down Broadway. It's a genuine miracle the tradition survived such a creepy and traumatizing debut. 11. The annual presidential turkey pardon is a masterclass in political absurdity, but the naming process is where it truly becomes art. The names for these lucky birds aren't chosen by some distinguished committee. They're the result of a White House poll and almost always sound like they were brainstormed by a toddler on a sugar high. We've been blessed with peas and carrots, corn and cob, and the iconic duo mac and cheese. This implies that at some point, the most powerful people on the planet took a break from debating foreign policy to have a serious discussion about whether tater or tot had more patriotic flair. It's a bizarre reminder that at the heart of American democracy, there's always time for a really dumb food pun. 12. Each November, the nation tunes in to watch the President of the United States grant a turkey a full pardon in a touching ceremony. It's a beautiful moment of holiday clemency. It's also a complete and total fabrication. The bird you see on TV, the one getting all the press, is the star of the show. It gets to retire and live out its days in peace. But there's always an understudy, an alternate turkey, waiting just off stage. While the main turkey is being celebrated as a symbol of mercy, Its less fortunate counterpart is already in the White House kitchen being prepped for dinner. The whole thing is a masterful PR stunt, a heartwarming distraction from the fact that the main course is still very much on the menu. 13. In 1926, President Calvin Coolidge received a rather unusual Thanksgiving gift from a supporter in Mississippi, a live raccoon. It came with a simple, horrifying instruction: cook it for dinner. But Silent Cal, in a move no one saw coming, took one look at the creature and decided against eating it. Instead, he adopted it. He named her Rebecca, gave her a custom-made collar, and let her loose in the White House. Rebecca became a beloved family pet, famous for escaping her enclosure and causing chaos during official events. Long before the turkey pardon became a staged media event, a raccoon named Rebecca received the first and arguably the most genuine Thanksgiving pardon in presidential history. 14. Picture Thanksgiving, but instead of a quiet family meal, your doorbell rings to reveal children in ragged costumes and ghoulish masks screaming for candy. This wasn't a weird dream. It was a real American tradition called Ragamuffin Day. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Thanksgiving was essentially a second Halloween. Kids would dress up as beggars, paint their faces, and parade from house to house, demanding apples, pennies, and sweets. The tradition was so popular that ragamuffin parades often overshadowed any other holiday festivities. Then, for reasons historians still debate, it just faded away, leaving behind a bizarre memory of a time when Thanksgiving had a serious identity crisis. 15. For those who find football too strenuous after a massive meal, some parts of America have invented the perfect post-dinner sport: frozen turkey bowling. The rules are exactly what you think. You take a 15-pound, rock-solid frozen bird and hurl it down a makeshift lane, usually a driveway or a slick patch of ice, at a set of 10 pins, which are typically empty soda bottles. The physics are a joke. The ball is unbalanced and has the aerodynamic grace of a flying brick. But that's the point. It's a glorious celebration of absurdity and probably the only sport where, at the end of the game, you can thaw your equipment and eat it. 16. It's 1927, and you're a Macy's parade organizer. You've just successfully floated a massive Felix the Cat balloon through New York City, a world first. The crowd is ecstatic. There's just one tiny detail you overlooked. You have absolutely no idea how to get the thing down. In a moment of sheer chaotic genius, the organizers' solution was to simply let it go. They released the tethers and watched as the enormous cat drifted helplessly into the sky, hoping it would become someone else's problem. This brilliant plan concluded when Felix met a set of telephone wires, which caused it to pop and deflate in a spectacular, unceremonious fashion. It was less a grand finale and more a public execution by utility pole. 17. Before giant helium-filled cartoon characters became the stars of the Macy's parade, the organizers had a much wilder and, frankly, more dangerous idea. The very first parade in 1924 featured 0 balloons. Instead, they decided to borrow a menagerie of live animals from the Central Park Zoo. This wasn't a petting zoo on wheels. This was a full-scale procession of bears, monkeys, camels, and elephants marching through the packed streets of Manhattan. It was a logistical nightmare with the potential for incredible chaos. The biggest fear wasn't a balloon getting tangled in a traffic light. It was an elephant getting spooked and deciding to redecorate a department store. Unsurprisingly, they quickly pivoted to inflatables, presumably after realizing that Snoopy was far less likely to cause a citywide panic. 18. The 1970s was a decade of bold and often terrible ideas, but few were as conceptually flawed as Thanksgiving in a can. Some genius at an aerosol company decided that the actual process of cooking a holiday meal was an inconvenience. Their solution? A room spray that promised to instantly fill your home with the delicious aroma of a full Thanksgiving feast. One press of the nozzle was supposed to unleash a symphony of roast turkey, stuffing, and pie. The reality, however, was a chemical catastrophe. Users reported a smell less like a home-cooked meal and more like a burnt TV dinner that had been doused in toilet cleaner. It was the perfect product for anyone who wanted to experience the smell of a holiday meal without any of the joy, effort, or actual food. 19. The act of deep frying a turkey is a beautiful metaphor for the American spirit. It's fast, it's excessive, and it's incredibly dangerous. The promise is a perfectly cooked, juicy bird with unbelievably crispy skin in record time. The reality is that it's one of the most effective ways to set your house on fire. Every year, fire departments brace themselves for the inevitable wave of Thanksgiving disasters as people dunk frozen turkeys into vats of boiling oil, creating spectacular fireballs. This has become such a predictable phenomenon that Thanksgiving is now a peak day for home cooking fires nationwide. It's the ultimate holiday gamble, a delicious dance with disaster fueled by overconfidence, a vat of flammable liquid, and a profound misunderstanding of physics. 20. On December 19, 1973, Johnny Carson, the king of late-night television, made a throwaway joke about a possible toilet paper shortage in the United States. He was, of course, completely making it up. But millions of Americans who were watching at home didn't catch the punchline. This led to immediate and widespread panic. The very next day, people descended on supermarkets, clearing shelves of every last roll of toilet paper in a frenzy of hoarding. For weeks, the country was gripped by a very real Carson-created shortage. It was a hilarious and terrifying example of the power of a single joke, proving that the line between a functioning society and complete chaos is apparently just one layer of two-ply. 21. The traditional painting of the first Thanksgiving is a masterpiece of historical fiction. We all picture the Pilgrims and Native Americans sharing a magnificent roasted turkey at a long communal table. It's a nice thought, but it's wrong. According to the actual historical accounts, the star of the show at the 1621 feast was venison, as the Wampanoag guests generously brought 5 deer. While they did eat wild birds, it was more likely geese, ducks, and even swans. And here's the real shocker. The table would have been groaning under the weight of seafood like lobster, clams, and eels, which were so plentiful they were considered low-class food. So, the original Thanksgiving was less of a turkey dinner and more of a 3-day surf and turf barbecue. 22. In the grip of the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration had to get creative. With turkey prices skyrocketing, they came up with a bold and deeply unappetizing proposal to save Thanksgiving: replace the turkey with mackerel. Yes, mackerel. The government actually launched a public relations campaign to convince the struggling American public that this oily, pungent fish was the new patriotic holiday centerpiece. As you can imagine, the idea of gathering the family around a steaming platter of broiled fish for their one big holiday meal was met with universal disgust. The proposal was a spectacular failure, proving that even in the face of economic collapse, you do not mess with a nation's Thanksgiving turkey. 23. Alcatraz was America's most feared prison, a supposedly inescapable fortress built to contain the worst of the worst. Yet, for one day a year, it was also home to a surprisingly good holiday meal, all thanks to its most famous resident, Al Capone. Even from within the walls of The Rock, Capone's influence was so vast that he managed to arrange a full-scale Thanksgiving dinner for every single inmate. He used his connections to persuade the warden and organized a feast with all the traditional trimmings. It was less about holiday spirit and more about flexing his power, a reminder that even in a maximum security prison, he was still the one calling the shots. It was definitive proof that even in Alcatraz, networking pays off. 24. Do you lie awake at night, tormented by the memory of an unjust wishbone snap? Does the fear of an uneven break cast a dark shadow over your holiday season? Well, some brilliant mind decided this was a problem that needed a technological solution and patented the wishbone-breaking apparatus. This is a real device designed to clamp a wishbone in place so that 2 people can pull on it with precisely equal mechanical force, ensuring a scientifically perfect, litigation-proof break every time. It's a stunning piece of over-engineering that takes a simple, fun tradition and sanitizes it with cold, joyless precision. It's the ideal gift for the person in your life who thinks everything, including a bit of holiday fun, could be improved with a spreadsheet and a torque wrench. 25. Long before the NFL turned Thanksgiving into a football bonanza, the holiday was the exclusive battleground for college football. Back in the late 19th century, Thanksgiving Day was the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics all rolled into one. The tradition kicked off with Princeton and Yale playing their championship game on that day in New York City, a massive social spectacle that drew tens of thousands. The timing was perfect. Students were home for the break, making it the ideal moment for huge rivalry games. It exploded in popularity, and by the 1890s, over 5,000 football games were being played across America on Thanksgiving, forever forging the holiday's unbreakable link to the glorious violence of the gridiron. 26. History is full of saints who performed miracles and lived lives of profound piety. And then there's St. Thomas, the first and only Turkey to ever be canonized. In a masterful piece of protest art in 1989, activists from PETA staged a full-blown canonization ceremony for a live turkey on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. The goal was to protest the mass consumption of his feathered brethren on Thanksgiving by elevating one to holy status. Imagine the sheer confusion of onlookers that day, witnessing a group of people in solemn attire bestowing sainthood upon a very bewildered-looking bird. While his status isn't recognized by the Vatican, for one bizarre moment, St. Thomas was the most sacred poultry in Washington, D.C. 27. When you think of exclusive holiday dining, a Michelin-starred restaurant might come to mind. But in 1969, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong had a reservation at a slightly more remote location, the Moon. And what was on the menu for humanity's first ever meal on an extraterrestrial surface? A pouch of freeze-dried roast turkey. Yes, the very first food eaten on the Moon was essentially a space-age Thanksgiving dinner. It's a surreal image to conjure. Two astronauts, millions of miles from home, surrounded by the silent vacuum of space, quietly enjoying turkey out of a foil packet. It just goes to prove that no matter how far humanity travels, we will inevitably pack our weirdest holiday traditions to go. 28. Just when you thought Thanksgiving couldn't get any dumber, a group of Indiana students created a tradition called the Flaming Turkey Toss. The ritual, and I use that term loosely, began by taking a frozen turkey and inexplicably dressing it in a child's onesie. Then, they would douse this bizarre creation in lighter fluid and set it ablaze. The grand finale involved launching this flaming poultry projectile across a football field. This wasn't just a bad idea. It was a masterclass in stupidity, a perfect storm of food waste, fire hazards, and questionable life choices. It's the kind of holiday event where the fire department probably just parks outside and waits for the inevitable. 29. While the rest of America was gathering for a day of feasting and gratitude, one of its founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, was likely rolling his eyes. He absolutely detested the idea of a national Thanksgiving Day. It wasn't about the food. His objection was purely philosophical. Jefferson was a fierce advocate for the separation of church and state, and he believed that a presidential proclamation calling for a day of thanks and prayer was a dangerous overstep. To him, it was the government telling people when and how they should be religious. So, while everyone else was passing the stuffing, Jefferson was staging a silent, principled protest, earning him the title of America's original Thanksgiving party pooper. 30. Plymouth Rock is treated like a sacred artifact, the hallowed ground where the Pilgrims first stepped ashore. It's a cornerstone of the American story. It's also a complete myth, invented over a century after the Mayflower landed. The Pilgrims themselves never mentioned any specific rock in their extensive writings. The entire story comes from a 94-year-old man in 1741, who claimed his father told him that he was told that this was the spot. Based on this incredibly flimsy third-hand testimony, the town decided it was a national treasure, promptly broke it in half while trying to move it, and cemented a legend. It's a fitting symbol for the holiday, a beloved story based on something that almost certainly never happened. 31. Today, the Butterball Turkey Talk line is a massive, high-tech operation. But when it launched in 1981, it was a far more chaotic and hilarious affair. The original hotline consisted of just 6 home economists answering calls from their own kitchens on their personal landlines. Picture these culinary heroes, likely in the middle of preparing their own family dinners, patiently explaining to a panicked nation how to thaw a bird or fielding legendary questions like, "My cat slept on the turkey. Is it still safe to cook?" It was a charmingly lo-fi start for what would become a holiday institution, proving that great empires are sometimes built on a handful of kitchen telephones. 32. In Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, Scrooge's redemption culminates with him buying a prize goose for the Cratchit family. But why a goose and not a turkey? It was a simple matter of 19th-century economics. In Victorian England, geese were the affordable, working-class holiday meal. Turkeys, however, were an expensive, imported luxury item, a delicacy reserved for the rich. A turkey would have been an absurdly extravagant gift, like buying your mailman a new car. By choosing a goose, Scrooge was providing a fantastic and celebratory meal that was still within the realm of believability. The humble goose was the true, relatable symbol of holiday cheer for the common person. That was our journey through 32 layers of Thanksgiving's historical madness. But history is a bottomless pit of stupidity, and we know there are even weirder stories out there. So, what did we miss? Hit the comments and tell us the single most absurd, dumb, or unbelievable Thanksgiving fact or family tradition you know. Let's see if the comments can get even crazier than this video. If you enjoyed this descent into chaos, hit like and subscribe for more.